Okay, everybody. Hi. This week we're going to talk about solving radical equations. So a radical equation is simply just an equation that has radicals, and the variables have to be inside the radicals. So I'm gonna write the steps for how we solve them, and then we'll do a couple of examples, and we'll use those steps to kind of work through that. Okay. So in order to solve, we have several steps. The first thing that we want to do is we want to isolate the radical on one side. Okay, so we want to get the radical alone all on one side, kind of like we do when we're solving an equation and we want the x alone on one side. The second thing that we're going to do is we're going to raise both sides to the same power. And that power is just going to be the power of the value of the index. Okay, once we do that, we're going to solve that equation that we're left with. And that's going to be it for now. Okay, so let's do an example and we'll follow these steps as we go. So let's suppose that we had 3 times the square root of x plus 2 minus 4 equals 8. Okay, so according to our steps here, the first thing that we want to do is make sure that we isolate the radical on one side. So that means we want to get this radical all alone. So the first thing we have to do in order to get the radical alone is get rid of the 4. What are we going to do to both sides in order to get rid of the 4? Let's add 4 to both sides. 8 plus 4 on that side will give us 12. Okay, we still need to get that radical by itself. So we want to get just the square root of x plus 2 alone. So in order to get rid of the 3, we will divide both sides by 3. So the square root of x plus 2 is equal to 4. Okay, once we get that radical all by itself, then we're going to, raise both sides to the same power. So we're going to do step 2 here. And we're going to raise both sides to the value of the index. So remember, the index is the small number inside the radical, or inside this part of the radical here that tells us which root we're taking. In this case, if there's no root shown, that means we're raising both sides to what? If there's no root, no index shown here, that means we're taking which root. Okay, that's a square root, right? We just don't write the 2. So we're going to then raise both sides to the second power. If we raise a square root to the second, then the square root and the radical and the square will cancel each other out and just leave us with x plus 2. And then 4 squared is 16. And now we just have to solve the last thing here, right? Step 3, solve that resulting equation. So to get x by itself, simply subtract 2, and x then is 14. And if you want to go back and check your answer, we can certainly plug that value of 14 in for x into our original equation to make sure that is a true statement. Okay? All right, let's try another one. Okay, so let's try -2 times the cube root of 4 minus x plus 1 equals 7. Okay, so what's different about this one versus the other one we did? Well, the only difference is that this time we're taking a cube root. So that's not going to affect step 1 at all. We still want to isolate our radical. So in order to do that, we need to get rid of the 1 first. So we're going to subtract 1 from both sides. And that gives us a 6. All right, always keeping in mind we want that radical by itself. So to get rid of the negative 2 in front, we could divide both sides by negative 2. So those 2's will cancel. And we're just left with the cube root of 4 minus x equals 6 divided by negative 2 is negative 3. Okay, so we've got the radical by itself. So now we're going to do step 2, and we're going to raise both sides to the same power. In this case, our index we said was 3. So we're going to raise both sides to the third power. So the cube and the cube root will cancel out. And on the left, we're just left with 4 minus x. Be careful on the right-hand side. Make sure that if you are using a calculator, that you put the parentheses around that whole number before you raise it to the power. Otherwise, your sign could be off depending on what your values are. But if we cube negative 3, we get negative 27. Subtract 4 from both sides. So negative x equals negative 31. And then if we change the sign of the x to make it positive, we'll change that as well. So x then is 31. Okay? Okay, awesome. So that will get you to do assignment number 1 and just practice solving those radical equations. And then we will look forward to solving some more complicated ones in the next lesson. All right, have a great day, you guys.